Who wants to go over what happened last time?
Let's see. There is a fire. We put that out. We arrested Micken on suspicion of causing said fire. We were mid-investigation of it.
Mm-hmm.
Do we have any evidence that Micken did anything?
Angela's gut, apparently.
Okay,
That's
so
it.
no, we'll go over this once we actually start the.
Well, we are started with the stream has started.
Okay.
So
So the reason Angela suspected Micken was, one, everybody else was knocked out or otherwise engaged, and yet he so happened to get away and warn everybody, supposedly. Two, what's his face? The cook. I'm bad at names.
Ryback?
Ryback had a blast in him that was clearly done by magic, and the only attack that we've ever seen Micken do is magic missile. 3, it was sabotaged. The plate that Ryback was using was sabotaged, and the exact same type of sabotage in that was during the academy, when everything was sabotaged by those little rune things.
So,
and
to
besides
remind
us,
everybody more specifically with that, pause right there so everybody is fully aware of, there was a hot plate, essentially, a magic hot plate that Ryback was using to cook. And Angela, when she went over to the galley area, saw what looks like one of the plates with the Mercan runes on it. In the back of the hot plate, she has not been able to examine it more than just, I think that's what that is, because it'll take some time to actually disassemble this contraption to get to this plate without damaging it.
The only one besides us that were present during the sabotages was Micken.
And Cricklet.
And Cricklet.
And
But
Cricklet.
Cricklet knows very little magic, apparently.
Yeah, Micken is a wizard,
Okay, but
Cricklet is a ranger, and Fred is a fighter, as far as you are aware.
Yeah.
All of them have given their quote-unquote alibis or their like defenses, but at the same time, all of them are not fully.
They're not fully cleared.
Yeah, they're not fully cleared because they all have their
Micken-
own unique things where they are kind of either acting weird or not observable.
Yeah.
But we say, didn't Micken discover the fire?
Discover in quotation.
Okay, so he discovered the fire.
Micken has told everybody, and as far as Button is at least aware, it is true. Micken was heading from the galley bunk area up to the command deck, as Micken has been swapping out with Button as the Spelljammer.
Okay.
To be
And so
clear,
he was
the other
not
two
in the room.
aren't cleared. Yeah, the other two aren't exactly cleared, but Micken has more against him than the others, so Angela called for his arrest.
So at the moment, Button is guarding Micken. I think the moths are guarding Fred, and then Taylor and Nevalier were guarding Cricklet, or some combination thereof.
I wrote this down. Taylor and Nevalier are watching Cricklet. Techway and Angela are watching Fred. Button and Trixie are watching Micken.
Sorry, wait, who's Techway watching?
Techway and Angela are watching Fred. Because Fred is a fighter.
Yeah, I was floating around as needed because I was about to contact our boss.
And Miss Notes Taker, did you write down what everybody's alibis and or odd moments away from everybody were?
Well, I think I did like a fucking perception check, nat 20, I think, something like that. And Fred seems to, during the night, Fred and Micken usually are up through the night. Fred wanders, where just Micken kind of just goes back and forth between Button and sometimes pokes into the autonom hold before heading back to the galley or Button. And Cricklet usually stays put, wanders during the day, but much more infrequently than the other two. So Fred's the one who wanders everywhere at night. Micken is creature of habit. Cricklet wanders during the day, but less frequently. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Sorry, I felt like I just read a report to my teacher.
No, this is good.
All right, I have my sources right here. It's in MLA format.
I don't know if I'm remembering correctly here or not, but we did DM confirm that it wasn't the autonom also.
Yes.
Yeah.
The autonom
Just-
has essentially
yeah.
always been glued to Button's side for the most part. The autonom is traumatized.
Or so it's either the autonom is safe from suspicion, or it's both of the autonoms.
Oh no. That's a whole new
Viva
factor.
la revolution.
Wizpop is fully mended and has his voice box back, but he has not really talked a whole bunch because he's still trying to process the insistence of we are not masters, we are friends. It's going very slowly. Very slowly.
He's getting there. He's getting there. Doing the best he can with what he's got. So,
And then Angela has kind of cordoned off everybody, made everybody stay put, was starting to poke around, and was also planning on contacting Tarto and the Academy to see what next steps should be. As you do have a dead Spelljammer Academy officer.
okay. So, I'm with Cricklet.
Yes.
So, Cricklet was one of the few,
This one.
excuse me, who was present during the sabotage at the actual academy.
Mhm.
So,
So Micken was in one of the other rooms. Cricklet was in the opposite of those rooms because there's only 3 simulators. Cricklet was injured but not trapped, where Micken was trapped in the simulator. Those were the 2 other rooms, what they were having to deal with.
how
Fred,
long ago
you
was
know-
the simulator thing?
And then I'll also add, Fred, would have been vaguely on simulation deck, just not in the simulation side of the deck because they had to close off that room once the test started. So you essentially would have been on the opposite side of the door when the door got busted in. And that would have been
Okay.
about a week and a half, 2-ish weeks ago.
Okay. So he doesn't have the rune thing on him. Nevalier doesn't. Because it's with Angela.
The runes that were found here have not been fully excavated from the magical hot plate.
They're still on the hot plate.
The thing was busted enough that Angela could see kind of a corner of a plate sticking out. And so Angela will have to sit down with some tinker tools and spend a little bit of time taking things apart if she wants to try and get that plate out intact.
Okay. And Cricklet is a 3 Kree.
Yes. Cricklet is a 3 Kreen and Fred is a Plasmoid.
Okay. So you can tell me if this is kosher or not, but I chose my bonus language from my background as 3 Kreen.
Mm-hmm.
Am I allowed to have that as a language? Because I know it's like chittering and stuff.
I mean, you're a bird. Yeah, sure.
Okay, cool. So, in 3 Kreen, Nevalier is going to ask Cricklet. How do I want to word this? Okay. Okay. So he's going to ask Cricklet, rather than ask him like, where were you during X, Y, and Z, he will very much stare like Cricklet in the eye, like look him dead in the face, and kind of lean over and put his elbows on his knees and steeple his fingers, and he will ask him in 3 Kreen, tell me how you didn't do it.
Didn't do it?
Did not. Tell me how you could have not done this.
Okay. And are you just asking, or are you wanting to roll something?
I want to try and intimidate him.
Okay. We'll roll an intimidation. See how this goes.
Not very good at it, but we'll try. Ah.
Could have been worse. Could have been a 1.
Could have been worse. Could have been a -1.
Yep.
Or a 0, I think, right?
Yeah, it would have been a 0.
Mm-hmm.
But Cricklet kind of looks in your direction, and you see it's hard to judge the expression on a lot of 3 Kreens. They're, the insectoid face does not give to expression easily, but you get what you think is something akin to surprise, a little twitch of the antenna and a couple of clacks of his mandibles without him actually saying anything. And he just slowly tilts his head. I don't know what that means, he says, and back very slowly in 3 Kreen.
So he wanders around during the quote-unquote daylight hours and stays put at night. Where does he stay put? In his bunk?
Yeah, in general, when we refer to wandering around, that is not in the galley area here, this room, or on the command deck. Because those are usually the 2 places that there is people 24/7 of some sort.
Okay. I might be overthinking this. So Nevalier, he just blinks for a second and then weighs the idea in his head and then just shakes his head and says, he's still talking in 3 Kreen, but he will ask, how well do you know Micken?
And Cricklet kind of turns his head to look towards Micken on the other side of the room, who is still kind of curled up around his wand, clutching it very protectively to his chest after Angela tried to order it taken from him, and just kind of like crouched down behind Button, just kind of watching everybody. And Cricklet just shrugs slightly. I got assigned to his, hour, and he kind of gestures between himself, Micken, and Fred, grouping after his group deserted. I've only known him a couple weeks.
Okay. How well do you know what's his name?
Fred?
Not Fred. The one who died.
Ryback?
Ryback, yes. He will ask, how well did you know Ryback? Back. Whatever.
About as well as you knew him. He
Nevalier will do
looked us
okay.
over and cooked us meals, and he was our officer.
I wanna. Can I roll an insight check to see if he's not telling me a lot?
Sure. Go ahead.
Feel like he's leaving something out. Yeah, 17.
Okay, 17. Let me see here. So, in regards to Ryback, he is pretty much, you can tell, telling the truth. Ryback is as... He knows Ryback about as much as any of you know Ryback. You all met him first day of Academy, and he has been serving you 3 meals a day every day since. And sometimes you talk to him, sometimes you don't. Depends on his mood and your mood. He is all of you know he is one of the more popular officers at the Academy because he is the one that controls the food and can give you extra portions and sometimes slightly better slop. But he is also one that a lot of people get annoyed with because he likes to just talk and complain and gossip. And usually not nice gossip. But he was, I should say, one that most of the cadets know a little bit better than the others because he is in authority, but he is not directly over most anybody. So he is easier to get to know. In regard to Micken, he seems to be telling most of the truth. You think there might be something small that he is not saying? But you can't tell what.
Okay. Then I will ask about Fred next and finish out the trio and ask, how well did you know Fred? Or how well do you know Fred?
I mean, again, we all got dropped on the same team after the simulator broke.
And
I mean, he's an asshole. Which, in the few days that you have met Fred, it would be easy to come to the conclusion he's an asshole.
Okay. So not necessarily a revelation.
No, he's just grumpy for no fucking reason all the time.
You were there at the simulation when things went wrong. Do you know anything more about what happened? Did anyone tell you?
He kind of... You see the antenna twitch again? And one of his hands goes up to rub one of his arms. And you know that was one of the major injuries that he went through in the room that he was in. And he kind of shrugs a little bit with both sets of shoulders. I mean, there was sabotage, your friend, and he like jerks his thumb over towards Angela. Pulled some shit out of a wall or something.
Is that all you know?
Well, I mean, you guys got exploded, we got exploded, he got passed out. Same thumb goes from Angela to Micken.
Can I make another insight check?
Sure.
Another 17. Consistent.
You're not sure if he is hiding something or if he is glossing over something simply because he's starting to feel uncomfortable with the very clear interrogations that are starting to pick up around the room.
Mm-hmm.
And kind of just be, vague to be annoying. But it's one of those two. Either hiding or being purposely vague for annoyance sake.
I'm going to kind of furrow my brow line at him and just very intent, stare at him, give him a really, really hard look, and I will say, Cricklet, I need you to tell me everything you know. Somebody is dead. And I will gesture to him go on. Did you leave anything out? Or forget something?
See, this is where I wish there was a leadership skill. Or a command skill in 5e.
I mean, you could homebrew one.
I might do that. Might just do a command skill for all of you guys that will be connected to something when we swap over. So you can roll a persuasion or an intimidation.
If I do intimidation, or rather, I want to do intimidation, and can I use my Blood Curse of the Anxious to get advantage on it?
Sure. Also, I will remind you that
yeah.
several of you should still have inspirations.
I had it marked. I don't know if that's actually a thing or not, so I unmarked it.
I don't think that you used yours.
Okay. I will use my Blood Maledict, or my Blood Maledict now, and then at a later point, I will use my thing. 12. I don't want to be that scary. I just want to be very, very firm to let him know, dude, I am trying to come to you on your ground. Don't hide shit. Not the time.
And so both of these, I guess I should slightly shift their tokens a little bit. Both of these two have been kind of propped up against the wall to recover and also separate them just a little bit so they're not quite as close. And so you're just kind of squatting down, leaning over this guy, and you're fairly tall for an Aarakocra. Actually, very tall for an Aarakocra. And the wings and everything make you look a little bit bigger. Cricklet's not a very big 3 crane. And you see him kind of shift slightly away from you. And
If
there's a very clear head-to-toe look in his eye as he examines you as you speak. You want to say something?
I was gonna say if his eyes go if they look at anybody else or look towards anybody else or start to dance around the room, I want Nevalier to flick a wing out to cut his vision off so he can't stop looking at Nevalier's eyes. No. Look at me when you're talking.
And he does start to do that. After he sizes you up, he kind of starts to try and look for the rest of the group to see where everybody has landed. And to pause this moment right here so that I can, as on the DM end, make sure I am understanding where the room is. Where is everybody? What are they all doing in general at the moment?
I was making my way to go talk to Tarto.
Okay, so you're trying to
wait.
find a more private, quiet spot for a second?
Yeah.
So you can head back towards the hallway that you entered into the galley, because there's only one hallway out of this room. So over towards Whiz Pop would be the direction that you would have to move to get there. Iris?
I'm just standing near Micken and Button, like, not trying to be intimidating or anything, like, kind of feeling bad for Micken, but also, like, trying to follow orders here.
Okay.
Because she's kind of confused and, like, oh, I don't know what else to do.
Amy?
Button's there with Micken. He said earlier that Micken's just hiding behind Button. Button's just like staring up at Micken with Toad by her feet.
Okay, Cody?
Just-
I guess watching Fred.
It would be vaguely here somewhere. Are you just kind of like chilling on top of a rock, like, or are you like actually trying to look semi-imposing?
No, I mean more, I guess, than like shadowing Fred. Like Tegway is not like bodyguard, like arming him at all. Just like watching him.
Okay. So you do see Cricklet's eyes kind of start to dart around, trying to figure out where everybody is, and you flick out your wing, and his head snaps back towards you, and he shifts uncomfortably for a moment.
Nevalier just not blinking, just staring at him.
What do you want?
Nevalier is going to, like, he's not going to move. He's just going to be perfectly still, and the only movement is going to come from his mouth as he speaks, and he will say, "I want you to tell me everything you know." That's all.
Let me double check one thing very fast. See who... So, Cricklet, you see various fingers on the various hands kind of start twitching and pulling at each other. Look. I might know something about the plate.
Nevalier just nods, and then does like the one finger go on.
Okay. I did not do this. And he gestures vaguely towards the galley. And where Rybok is still laying.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, Hazel. I did not do this. I may have helped out with the simulation thing, though.
Nevalier nods, and we'll wait like just a little bit, enough to make like the silence just a little bit uncomfortable, and then he will break the silence with, "Who did you help?"
If I tell you I'm dead. You might fuck me up, but you're not going to kill me.
Just nod. You're right. I'm not going to kill you. I'm not going to let that other person kill you either. So you can tell me who did it, or you can keep your mouth shut and hope I don't figure out who it is on my own. Because then I'll blame you.
There's another few clacks of the mandible as
He's gonna stand up and just like cut him off. Just stand up and bring his wing back and just be like, think about it. He's going to walk over towards Fred now.
okay.
And unless he reaches out to say something, he's like Nevelier's just gonna leave him cold, just walk off.
Leaving him to stew or carrying out on your promise is what you're trying to imply.
Somewhere between the two. Like I want him to not know like, oh shit, is he just gonna go and figure it out and that's just it? I'm dead? Or is it he's just giving me time to think and mull it over? I don't know what it is. Like I want him to be anxious about not knowing what's going on.
Okay. He is not going to reach out to you as you move on, but he does
I'll stop
look
and turn.
distinctly uncomfortable as you move.
I'll turn around and then I'll give the little privacy of like a shade with the wing.
Oh, I said he does not reach out for
Oh, he
you.
does not. Oh, okay.
Yeah, he just looks very worried and uncomfortable.
Okay. Then Nevelier's gonna walk over to Fred. And Fred, I don't know, plasmoids don't have a language, right? They're just plasma.
Yeah. There's no special
Okay.
language for them. They're just common.
I will walk over to Fred and keep his fingers like kind of not crossed or steepled, but kind of like his hands folded. And Nevalier will ask, "Hi, Fred. What do you know about Cricklet?"
Fred is leaned against the wall, and the long sword he normally has is still over towards the bunks because he was not planning on carrying it around while he was in the galley. So all he has is this kind of blue kerchief necktie type thing, and he's slumped against the wall. When he stands to his full-ish height, because plasmoids can vary just a little bit, he is easily taller than Nevalier, usually. However, when he is in his mood, which is frequent, he just kind of slouches down, which also just kind of slops all of the plasma down lower, and he squishes down. And he's in a very similar position, just laid out, like legs stretched in front of him, a little bit flatter than he probably should be at the moment, as he's just oozing out. And it's not always easy to tell where plasmoids are looking, as they have no real facial structure to judge by. But you get this slight shift in the ooze and a turn of a head that you assume is him looking in your direction. I don't know anything. Except that it fucking hurt.
What hurts?
Getting blown up.
Nodding, okay. I will ask, how well did you know Ryback?
There's like a one-shouldered shrug. I mean, he complained to me when I hung around the galley at the academy. I complained to him. Real bitch fest.
Nod. Did you like Ryback?
More or less, I guess.
Nod. I'm like, Nevalier having no eyes to make eye contact with is just like searching Ooh's face.
It's distinctly
And-
harder to get an impression from the plasmoid by face. However, you all have been at the academy long enough, and there's enough plasmoids kind of floating around the academy that you would know that the body language question mark of the plasmoid is closer to the facial expression for them. Of, are they in full form? Are they kind of slopping down a little bit and oozing out and spreading out? You know, all that type of stuff.
Nevalier nods, and he'll kind of tilt his head to the side a little bit and ask, "Do you remember maybe last week or a little bit past that, maybe 2 weeks ago, when the simulation went south?"
There's just like this like little groan of acknowledgement. Made me fucking stay at this academy longer. I can't go on without that simulation.
Where were you when all that happened?
Lined up about 2-3 groups away down the hall.
Is his body language changing at all?
No, it's still this kind of slouched. I mean, you can roll an insight to see how well. It's a fairly low DC since you've been around the plasmoids a little bit. To see how well you read the body language.
We'll try. We'll give it a try.
Hey, there you go.
Good roll.
It's very much between what you know of plasmoids and the interactions you have had with Fred on the journey thus far. It seems to still be this very much kind of annoyed by the world and tired about everything posture that he is in most of the time, unless he gets particularly excited about something or particularly mad about something. Maybe a little more kind of oozed out amorphous from pain and disorientation that is still happening.
And he was supposedly in line with the rest of the group, or with his group, when the deck like blew up or whatever, caught fire.
So there was the 3 groups in the 3 different simulation chambers, and the rest of your quote-unquote like year or class of Spelljammer Academy was outside of the simulation chamber area, kind of through the hallways, waiting to go in. When the y'all's simulation was over, the next 3 groups would come in, and then the next 3 groups would come in. And he was, from what he is saying, 1 or 2 groups out.
Do you know what happened? Did they tell you?
Fucking chamber blew up or some shit. Micken's group got, I don't know, trapped somehow. All I know is all the guards and every bloody other fucking officer in the entire academy just goes rushing by and breaking down the door. Well, I guess that one broke down the door, and he points towards Button.
I forgot Button had a battering ram. Just nodding. And still kind of searching his face. I will kind of turn my body so that I'm angled slightly towards where Micken is sitting, so that he can see Micken. And my back is to Cricklet.
Mm-hmm.
And I will say, do you know much about Micken? Anything interesting?
I mean, I guess he's a decent spelljammer and he doesn't shut up about ships. He's weird.
You complained to Rybeck a lot. Did you ever complain about him?
Well, when he doesn't shut up.
Nod. Did Rybeck complain about him?
There's like a little shifting tilt of the head. And then... no, I don't think so. I don't think Mick can talk to him much. Knows too deep in those fucking books.
Question.
Yes.
How was Rybeck found murdered?
Magic bullet to the stomach.
There was some sort of magical damage to him. However, it looked like he went down while fighting the Mephits. Because there were several lava pools around him, which indicate dead Mephits.
Okay. So something hit him in the chest, possibly a Mephit. Or is the possibility of a Mephit not likely because it probably would have been like a burn wound rather than just magic?
It's a very distinctly Mephit damage that killed him. However, it does look like a different type of magic of some sort hit him very recently. So you don't know if it is during the fight, before the fight, whatever.
Gotcha.
And all of you would have also been able to glean to some extent because of the spread of where Cricklet and Fred were and the Mephits moving around, that they seem to come from kind of the galley area and were spreading through the room.
Okay. So Nevalier will kind of pull back so that he's facing like broadside, flat-faced towards Fred. And he will very plainly ask, know any magic stuff? Spells of any kind?
There is a odd sound at first, this kind of bubbling sound that you take after a moment, saying, oh, that is a plasmoid snorting. Having no lungs or air going in and out of their body to speak of. That is an attempt at snorting. And he just motions vaguely towards the bunk area. I just hit people with swords and sticks, man.
Can I roll insight on that? Just one more.
Sure.
I get the general sense that he's being truthful. 20.
Yeah, as far as you can tell, he is being pretty truthful. He may be... You're getting the impression he's being maybe a tad more polite than he normally is. but he's not said anything that seems like a lie or seems like glossing over too much.
Just nod. Nevalier's gonna chalk that up to just blunt honesty. He seems the type. So he nods. And then he'll start to move away and give him good thank. Like just give him a nod and just a quiet like thank you. Excuse me. And he's gonna start walking towards Micken. Is anybody else wanting to do anything, by the way? Because I don't want to hijack the whole thing here.
I still want to talk to Tarto.
Do you want... I'll leave it up to you, Piper. Do you want to talk to Tarto before Nevalier talks to Micken? Or do you want to wait until he talks to Micken?
I would like to join for the questioning of Micken, so before, please.
Okay. So, as... while Nevalier is talking to Cricklet and Fred, you have made your way to the kind of hallway that connects this large area to the next large area in the cargo deck area of the Tyrant ship. That was a lot of areas in one sentence. And it is quiet enough and the air is clear enough for you to fairly comfortably use the sending stone to get to Tarto. And there's a long pause as the magic kicks on and you see this stone flashing this faint green on and off, and then you hear Tarto's voice coming through, a little quiet, but still there. What do you want?
Commander, right? That's his rank. How would I address them?
It's an officer, right?
Yeah, he is. They are an officer. So Tarto is female.
Oh, Tarto's female. I didn't know
Yes.
that.
Tarto is female. He's bosun is the actual title for Tarto, but you can say Commander Tarto or
Commando Tarto, this is Angela aboard the Tyrant ship. We have become the victim of sabotage again.
Sabotage?
Yes, a large explosion followed by flaming methods with the same sabotage method as what occurred during the simulation. I regret to afford that Officer Ryback has fallen.
Same sabotage. So you found a plate.
Yes.
And there seems to be a little bit of scuffling noise of some sort of movement. And next thing you hear is not Tarto's voice, it's Sertha's voice. And where exactly was this plate found?
It was inside of a hot plate for cooking.
Interesting. And he starts to kind of, you hear the theory of like, well, if it's found in the hot plates, then that means it must go into any of the mechanisms. And as he starts theorizing about this plate, you hear shuffling again and movement, and then Tarto comes across the line. Alright. Is Ryback the only casualty?
A couple other injured, but no, he was the only one. I will say that he was found with a different injury from before the flaming wounds, indicating he was attacked prior. Or perhaps during.
Damn it. Okay. Well, stop the ship. We are actually following, just in case there was a emergency of another kind. We'll be there in a couple hours.
Did I continue to carry on the investigation?
You believe there's something specific to investigate?
I find it very likely that our saboteur is still on board with the information given.
You can continue as you see fit and inform us of what you find. No, don't try to pick a fight, though. Just keep everybody in sight until we arrive.
Very well. I will relay your orders at once.
And there's just this heavy sigh, and the flashing of the sending stone stops. And you know, this Tardo is just like, this fucking shit again. Okay. It was very much the impression at the very end of the call.
Yeah, our ship's already stopped, right?
Yes.
Oh yeah,
there's no
Button put that
Spelljammer.
bitch in park.
Yeah, okay.
Button hit the e-brake.
Okay, so then I will return with everybody to relay that order.
Okay. And so you get back into the room right about the time Nevelier seems to be finishing a conversation with Fred and turning and walking across the room towards Micken. And then the two of you converge on Micken, and Micken first sees Nevelier, because he was kind of watching Nevelier and the other two talk, and starts to shrink away from Nevelier as Nevelier approaches, and then gets the sense of Angela from the other side and tries to shrink away from Angela. And the boy is just curled in about as tight as he can get, crouched down.
Is he eye level with Button?
Yes. He has gone into, like, near about fetal position. But still on his feet, somehow.
We have some good news. The higher-ups will be here in a matter of hours. They weren't too far behind.
Good. Then we'll have some time to ask you a few things, Micken. Nevelier is going to... I assume Micken's sitting.
No, he is crouched down. He's like squatted down essentially, and he is leaned up over his knees a little bit. Both of his hands are wrapped really tightly around this very plain looking wood wand that he uses. And he's just curled up in on himself, just like wide-eyed, watching everybody. Kate looks legitimately terrified.
I'm gonna... If he looks more shaken up than Cricklet, I just want to start off strong with an intimidation check and maybe just choke one right out of him. just skip to the end of this dialogue.
Are you gonna kill him?
I'm not gonna kill him.
If you roll a nat 20, then the boy's just gonna have a heart attack. This is gonna be done.
I want to use the inspiration that I guess I have for the express purpose of hopefully getting all of the information out of Micken right away.
You can use the inspiration. I would just say roll first, and then if you don't, if you fail, use inspiration, because inspiration automatically gives you advantage. So you don't want to use that needlessly.
Roll first.
Yeah, roll first.
Who knows? You might crit.
So I will look at Micken and do the same like hard hawk stare that I gave to the other two, and I will ask him very plainly, Micken, what do you know about methods? Oh, natural 20.
Holy shit! We called it!
And he just like looks at you, always like wide-eyed, and blinks slightly. I mean, they're infernals. Sometimes you can summon them, and then they are generally a little bit more annoying than necessarily deadly, though. In this case,
You know what he meant.
Yeah,
this is what I know about methods.
Then just nod and be like, good. What do you know about what happened with Ryback in the kitchen?
I was coming to the command deck and it boomed.
Do you know why?
He just like kind of looks towards Angela, thinks better of it, stares back down at the ground. She says there's
I'm gonna snap my fingers, and I'm gonna like snap my fingers to get his attention, and then point to my eyes and to Angela's eyes, and just like look one of us in the eye while you talk.
you start this cycle of him trying to look and then looking down and trying to look and looking down. He is probably 2 steps away from wedding from his look.
Dude, like Trixie puts an arm on Nevler's wing, like, calm down, like, just ask him normally.
I will put a hand. I will gesture very calmly towards Trixie and be like, I'm not going to hurt him. I want to be very firm with my questioning.
But he's already scared shitless.
It would be in everyone's best interest if you told us what you know about what happened.
I told you everything I know.
So you don't know about anything that happened in the kitchen aside from an explosion? Nothing that could have caused it?
She said there was something, and she kind of like points with like one finger uncurls from the white knuckle grip he has around his wand and points in the direction of Angela.
Just we're not talking loud enough that Cricklet can that our voices project, and Cricklet could obviously hear. He could probably hear that we're talking, but could he make out all of the details?
He probably is catching 1 or 2 words from Micken, who is very panicked. And so his voice is kind of going up and down a little bit, so you can pick out 1 or 2 words, but not everybody else's.
Yeah. I will put my, like, do the very calm down gesture with my hand and be like, breathe. Just look at Micken, and I'm going to shoot a glance over to Cricklet and try to make eye contact with him and be like, almost there. Almost there. This is got one more guy here.
DM, just so I know, like, what's the general punishment for mutiny or sabotage?
General, it for a Spelljammer setting, it is ship by ship. Spelljammer Academy has not really had that issue. However, Spelljammer Academy runs a little bit more like a city would. So it'd be prison or hard labor or something like that. Not necessarily like execution or anything. However, depending on if like whatever the ship decides when you're on a Spelljammer out in space, it could be better or worse.
Okay.
There's also someone murdered here, though, too.
Yeah.
It's kind of the bigger problem.
Yeah. So, I'm going to be over here. Then Nevalier will, like, put a hand out on Micken's shoulder.
Very distinct flinch.
Yeah, not aggressively. This is very much like a, hey, trying to ground you. Breathe. You're higher in the sky than I am, usually. And he will look at Micken in the eye and say, "It's okay. If anything happened, and it was not intentional, that is different than if it was a murder. Do you know anything about what happened?"
He is just you kind of caught him at the like very starting point of what you could assume is like a hyperventilating or panic attack, somewhere in that realm. And the flinch was enough to like stop him. He just kind of stares at you for a second. He like glances at Angela. What was it? What was the sabotage?
Turn to Angela.
The hot plate had sabotage runes on it, similar to how the simulation door was also sabotaged.
What?
The one that you were a part of, Micken.
What did it look like? Because he was out of it. He did not really see anything that was pulled out of the simulations.
A set of runes on a plate.
He kind of tilts his head one way and then the other, very clearly trying to think through fear at the moment. That's Mercan magic.
Mercan?
Mm-hmm.
What is Mercan?
It's a race from Doom space, other side of the astral sea. And any of you that would like to can roll a history or a nature for me to see.
Ooh.
I have neither of those. I'll try.
It's a
I will
lower
try
DC
history.
because it's something you could have learned at Spelljammer Academy.
Plus 5. 23.
History
20.
22. Okay, so Button's the only one that does not recognize this.
Button, I'm
Maybe
sorry.
it's like, honestly, I think my bad rolling is on like weekends. Maybe just every goth girl weekend I roll bad.
To be fair, I don't think this would be something Button would be inclined to pay attention to. The others maybe a little bit more for other reasons. Mercans are a race of essentially magical merchants that come from another wild space sphere. So they are not from this sphere that you are in. It is a sphere called Doom Space. And they are... Yes?
No, sorry, go on.
They are the only Mercans that anybody, at least in this particular sphere, realm space, which is called realm space, that you are in. All the Mercans that anybody has met or talked to or flown with or anything like that, every single one of them is merchant. There is not a fighter, there is not a another type of profession of any sort. They aren't spelljammers, even though they're magical. They're all merchants, and they are all very cutthroat and cold-blooded. And all of you would be aware that they are notorious for having networks of various kinds, networks of trade, networks of information, networks of influence.
So they're not fighters, but they are the cold, calculating types.
Yes.
Very Angela. Suspicious.
They are not they have very powerful magic at their disposal when they do get into direct trouble, but they are very much the type of people that all of you would know, like, they're less likely to get into the trouble themselves. They're more likely to send other people to get in trouble.
Oh,
and
okay.
keep their hands
Ah,
out of it directly.
work by proxy.
Yes.
Mhm.
Okay. So Micken recognizes their magic.
Yes.
Mhm.
Micken, how do you know this is Mercane magic?
There was a merchant that tried to get me to get information about the academy, but I said no. I just wanted to get on a ship and make some money.
You know what the difference between being charged for murder and being charged as an accessory is?
I didn't do anything. I said no.
You didn't give them. You said you didn't give them information. Did you do anything for them? You just said that
No.
you were trying to get money.
Okay, so he didn't do anything for them.
And Button, Micken has told you why he wants money.
Mm-hmm. I have a question for you, Z.
Yes.
Obviously, Button doesn't know this, but for me, if I want to ask you this question, are they like a recognizable race? Or is it like a type of person?
They are a recognizable race.
Okay.
I can send y'all a picture of a mercan. Give me just 2 seconds.
Hold on, I'm scrolling through my notes.
Why is that picture taking so long to load? It's a good picture. There we go. So, this is a mercan.
The tall one?
Yes.
Huh.
That's a
Okay.
standard human.
Huh.
Just give me 1 second.
Wow.
Let me double check something real quick. Just going back up to my notes. Hobgoblin, and then a halfling. Okay, never mind. Ignore me.
You sure?
I was going to ask you about in session 1 when we were at the Skydock. Button witnessed a deal go down between an officer and a merchant, and I was like, "Fuck! What were their races?" No, it was a hobgoblin officer, a bridge officer, and a halfling merchant.
And you guys have
There's some
since
shady people.
found out what that deal was, though.
Oh.
Oh yeah.
Yes. Because it's a very minor side thing.
Oh, okay.
The officer is an officer who likes to give a couple fingers of whiskey to cadets as a reward for doing particularly good. And so he was smuggling in whiskey for cadets.
Okay.
Yes.
I see.
It's all
So
coming together now.
The conundrum there was if you had coughed him up and tattled on him, you would have had a lot of cadets very pissed off at you because you tattled on the officer that was giving people drinks.
No, man, we're not narcs.
Yeah, Button isn't a narc. Okay. I just wanted to double check on that to see if, because I just remember it was merchant deal. Okay, so ignore me.
Okay.
Thank you for letting me
Would
So-
you like to volunteer information about Micken to help?
Oh, what was the last
The-
thing Mickey said?
The thing is the reason as to why he wants money,
Mhm.
if it's relevant at all.
Yeah, you would just see Button's there the whole fucking time, just like standing right there in front of Micken, I guess in between, right next to the two of you. And just Button just nods and just. And well, you do have a good reason to not want to get involved in that and to get a stable job.
He nods very quickly.
Would you like to share, Button?
Button eyes, big ass eyes, turn to Micken. Would you like to share?
I'm trying to get money so that my fiance and I can get a house.
Nice.
Get married.
How long would it take for a Spelljammer to make enough money to afford a house? A couple years?
If I wanted a mansion, maybe. I just want a house in the country. Just a year is all I thought. Which, again, he's going by commoner standards, so a little tiny farm in the country is fairly quickly made by adventurer salary.
Yeah,
Okay,
just like
so he's
Angela. That depends on the housing market and the area.
Yeah, I
Would you like
just-
to fucking Zillow?
That's very true. Okay.
Yes.
Zillow Jammer.
He's like, I want a little, like, 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom cottage with a garden.
Well, I was just assumed we weren't paid that much. That's what I was thinking.
Well, as cadets,
Not
no,
that
that's
true.
Spelljammer.
Not yeah, I wasn't
Um,
thinking that the housing was cheap. I was thinking we're not paid much, but okay.
So I will. Nevalier like looks at Micken and nods and just goes, "Very admirable." And he will look up at Cricklet and he will look back down to Micken and say, "I'm going to leave you in the capable hands of our captain. I have something to pick up from Mr. Cricklet." And he's going to start walking towards Cricklet. And like he'll Oh, go ahead.
You just hear, like, the shaky breathing of Micken as you go by, and, like, shift slightly closer to Button to get out of your way.
Either way,
As
we
I'm-
will all remain here for the next few hours. So let's all get comfortable.
Comforting pat, pat, pat on Micken's knee.
He just goes, As you approach Cricklet, you see Cricklet kind of curl in just a little bit more, all four of his arms tightening across his body. He just watches.
I will walk over and I will not like squat down to meet him eye to eye. I will stand down at him. And when I walk up and stop, I should be like right here. I just walk directly at him. I will stop and I will look down and I will say, "This is your last chance. Tell me anything that you know."
It is a lower DC this time, but you can roll an intimidation or a persuasion.
I'm gonna roll intimidation. Ah, that's bad. I
Yeah.
have the inspiration.
So you get to roll at advantage.
Now
You
you
want
can
to
roll
use
a
it?
6. Okay.
So you,
Yeah, an advantage.
yeah, you can do it again. See
Wait.
if you crit.
Oh, I just get a separate new roll.
Yeah.
It's a 14.
Yeah, that's how inspiration is working here. If you use your inspiration, you get to roll 2 more times and take the highest out of those 2.
Okay, so it's a re-roll with advantage.
Yes.
Cool.
Cricklet just kind of stares up at you for a second, and you see the head turn slightly in towards the galley and the mess that is over there. And there is just a slow breath out and slight deflating. Look. Some guy representing a mercan out of the Rock of Brawl paid me a lot of money to plant some shit. in the simulation chamber. I don't know anything about that. And he points towards the galley.
So, he, like, Nevalier nods very lightly, says, do you know, or was anyone else involved with your deal, or was it just you?
I mean, it was some guy representing the Mercan, technically, but...
Anyone else from the Academy?
And there's just like a slow shake of his head. They just paid me a bunch of money to plant a couple of plates in the simulation chamber. Didn't know what they were gonna do. I thought I was just gonna make it not work.
Nevalier's that he like closes his eyes for a second, and there's like a noticeable like tension to his jaw where he's now like, okay, this is a different thing that I have to deal with, or that we have to deal with, and I was really hoping that it would just be the one thing. Okay. So, do you know if this Merkin was involved with this? Pointing to the galley.
There's a slow shake of the head. I mean, if there's Merkin shit, I guess. Guy doesn't like Mert.
I want to insight check. Is he?
You
I
don't
don't
even
fully
need
believe.
to insight check. He is being like he seems to only have vague details.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And he is working with the vague details that he is aware of.
Okay. So this was giving the barest of information to someone to get a job done, to keep hands clean.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
That's what you can guess, knowing that it's a Mercan and from what you are slowly gathering from people.
I'm going to, like, Nevalier blinks a couple times and looks him in the eye, says, you are very lucky that nobody died at the simulation.
Fucking
I'm
telling
going-
me. And he just like rubs his arm.
Don't get too excited. I'm obligated to tell our captain what happened. I will not throw you under the bus. I will give you a fair shake. You did not know what you were doing. There's been other dubious things done on the cadet campus. Hopefully they go easy on you. And I just Nevalier will nod and say, thank you for cooperating. Again, I'll do what I can, but I make no promises.
And you just see Cricklet like head thunk against the wall.
Yeah, Nevalier just nodding, just like, yeah, that's what I thought. That's about what it's going to be like, huh? And man, Mickens. I don't think he did it because I don't think he would have the constitution to do it because he'd probably shit himself from the anxiety of setting a trap. Like, I don't understand. I would be shocked if he could get through a lie if like somebody if he like stole somebody's lunch. Let alone set a trap.
I'm pretty sure it's more likely that he gets his lunch stolen.
Yeah.
The thing is, like, he's the only one that has used magic besides our group. And it was magic missile. That's my biggest thing. The second thing is he was the one that came out from the fire. Everyone else was knocked out or dead. He was the only one that was able to leave the area.
Again, little wizard boy had the constitution to get out of the fire.
Yeah.
I think he was already on his way out when it boomed, is what he's saying.
Yes, he said he's saying that he is already in the hallway. And that's why he
He
is
was
essentially
still-
like smoke marked.
And
Yeah,
also
there's,
he
like-
identifies Mercan magic.
I
It
would
could
be.
it could also be he didn't know what he was signing in for, just like Cricklet.
That's what I was gonna say. Like knowing that Cricklet signed up for something that he was like, I thought it would be not a bomb. I wanted to do it for money. I didn't think it was going to be as intense and harmful as it was. Like
And-
knowing that, I'm willing to believe that like maybe Micken was sold some kind of false story and maybe set shit up by accident.
And on top of that too, I know this is kind of smaller, but it just makes me sus personally. He really doesn't want to give up his weapon when we have said we are not going to harm him. We're just trying to ask questions. But he's holding on to his weapon like we're about, like he expects to be attacked.
Yeah, come tell this to Angela, and I can.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
Nevalier will walk back over and like put like a slight tap, or do like a slight tap on Angela's shoulder, and then kind of nod his head away so that he can kind of sequester her off and then share the information
Yeah.
so that you'll. And Nevalier will do everything very flat faced, like, okay, talk to Cricklet. He was involved. He knows about the Mercan stuff. He was the one who set the plate up at the simulation. He did so on a favor from a Mercan for money. He did not know the intensity and severity of what was going to happen. I told him I would do what I could to get him as lenient a possible sentence as I could get him. Nobody died, and that's the best situation he can hope for. I imagine we'll tell Tarto. Hopefully, Tarto's in a good mood. But beyond that, he does know, at least to some extent, that the plate and Mercan things are involved, so he recognizes the tech that was used. As for what happened here, no, I don't think it was him. And as per the usual, Mercans kept their hands mostly clean. They did not give any information, duty, no names exchanged, and that was it. So I'm afraid we don't have a name to go off of, but we do know this Mercan.
Cough, cough, you do
likely
have a
came-
name from the simulation episode.
They have a name of the Mercan?
Yes. We said at the end of the simulation episode. The simulation session.
My bad.
What was the name?
It was a Vocath.
Vocath. Okay. But also what's the location again? It's like the big Crick just said it. Cricklet just said
Brawl?
like, oh yeah, the rock, yes.
He said that it was a Mercan based out of the Rock of Brawl.
Yeah, so Nevalier will shrug and say, that Mercan who was responsible is based out of the Rock of Brawl. So we know that much. Is it the same Mercan who did this? I don't know. Neither does he. I'm not 100% convinced that Fred didn't do it, but I'm 90% of the way there. Fred is not driven enough to do something like this. Micken has cause, capability. The only thing that he's shaky on is just shrugs, just like, well, he's just shaky. But I'm willing to believe that He likely was misled in some way by the Mercan, convinced to do this job. He received some sort of payment to make ends meet for him and his wife to be. So I would also think that it might be a kindness to go easy on him as well. Unfortunate for him, there is a body. Though it wasn't an intentional act of murder, it's at least less damning for him. But that is
Yeah.
what I was able to glean.
Yeah. So Angela had her eyes closed, listening to you, and then once you finish, she sort of opens her eyes and then focuses her gaze on Micken. Earlier, I asked you a question. Do you know what the difference between being convicted of murder and being convicted as as an accessory is?
Where? I mean,
For the Academy.
uh, they've never convicted anyone of either. But
Typically, they follow the rules of the state that they are based in. Typically, murderers get the death penalty, and they will never see anybody ever again. Accessories to the fact go to jail for a year or two, but accessories can meet their loved ones again.
I will reach over and put a hand on Micken again, and like this time a little bit more firmly, kind of give him a light squeeze and be like, Micken, we need to know if this was something you did with the intent or not. If you did it. There's a lot of lines that point to you. And if you genuinely didn't do it, then tell us now. But if you did, and you don't tell us that you did, and we are left with
he has started
just...
to cry.
Oh,
What he is saying is, if you had a hand in it, throw your employer under the bus, and you can see your fiance again.
I didn't
If
do
you
anything.
He didn't do anything?
Yeah, he is like blubbering, crying now. I didn't do anything.
Button has decided this is enough.
Okay.
What the hell, guys?
Button steps forward and like
Where's
separate.
the proof?
Sorry.
Nevalier takes a step back and nods and just... Okay.
Very well. He's cast his die. We will pursue other matters for now.
See if we can find anything else.
I genuinely hope you're telling the truth again. This turns back to speak to Neville again.
Nevalier, like, he'll really hurt look, like, I want to believe you, but I don't know if I can convince everybody else to believe you.
You having Button do something?
Yeah, that like once Micken starts blubbering, Button has decided that is enough, and Button has separated Micken from Angela and Nevalier. Just what comes into your line of sight is a quarterstaff. You look down, Button is holding the quarterstaff, not at you, but like as a walking stick. You just look down and you just see very, very firm, just that is enough.
You're right. We've questioned him enough for the day. If you'd like, maybe you could run up and grab some food for us while we're down here for a few hours. Either of you. And gesture to Button or Trixie.
No.
Well, all your supplies are here.
Right.
The only thing that is elsewhere in the ship at this point is the Spelljammer helm and whatever may have been kept up there to keep the Spelljammers comfortable while they are up there.
Yeah, all that's left to do is wait then.
Yeah, then Nevalier, like, just like there's a very heavy air of like, shit, dude. I don't know what to do. And he'll go. He's gonna start to walk a bit away, and he'll leave Mick and Trixie and Button. Give them the space that they need.
You don't have a choice.
Yeah. just know he will comply. He gets it. He's like, yeah, it's not great. Nevalier, when he sequestered Angela, he will say, I don't think he did it, but I can't prove otherwise. And it's not going to look good to Tarto. If there's any other evidence that we might find, I would appreciate the opportunity to go and maybe there's something up there that we missed.
All that's left is, and she pulls out the hot plate. Keep watch while I undo this.
So-
She pulls
Nods.
out like a set of like tinker tools, rolls them out in front of her.
So you'd have to go back to the galley because it's a fairly large thing.
Oh, did I say over here? I meant I
Yeah,
pictured myself
yeah.
over here.
Because it is, I say hot plate, but it is a good kind of crate sized
Okay.
device.
Yeah, when I heard hot plate.
Yeah, so it's
thought
magical
about
hot
hot
plate.
Okay.
I say hot plate because I don't know how else to describe it. Magical box that is an oven but not an oven, and a stove but not a stove.
Hell yeah.
So Angela
Oh,
is
boy.
going to try and undo the hot plate a bit. Is that what I'm understanding?
Yeah, I will take as long as I need to.
Am I able to help? If it's Arcana related, I have proficiency.
Well, if you're just wanting to take your time, Angela,
Yeah.
in taking apart, you are an artificer. It is, and you have your tinker's tools with you.
Yeah.
So it is fairly easy to start taking this thing apart. And once you get inside, you see that it is actually a little bit more complex than what you thought it was on the outside. It is a fairly intricate little arcane device, and there is an appreciation on your part looking into it, seeing all the different mechanisms and different what looks like stones with enchanted spells carved into them, that are triggered at different points to allow this device to heat to different levels, to cook in different ways. But as you kind of pop off the top and one of the sides and start examining the mechanics, you see the plate at the back that was sticking out, but you also see two other plates deeper inside of this device. And all three of them are that solid, dark metal with etched in slightly glowing runes of magic that are fading as the magic has been triggered in them and used. There's still just a faint glow. You can tell this is a very well done and deeply embedded magic. And it takes you a good hour and a half to be able to kind of pull out the three plates without damaging to them too much. There's a couple of scrapes and scratches on them. And if Nevalier would like to help, the two of you can work together on an Arcana check at advantage to see if you can figure out more about these plates than just Mercan magic.
Yeah, sure.
Neville will help.
What's the Arcana?
Probably lower than yours. Mine is +4.
Oh, yeah, mine is +5.
Yeah.
So I roll at advantage. Add a 1. And a 2. 17.
Okay. So you pull out the first plate. And as you pull out the plate, you see that there's a couple of runes on there that are not in this Mercan language. And you see that it's very clearly bits and pieces of a summoning spell. So you can figure that this was the plate that was used to summon the Mephits that you all fought. And as you pull out the second plate, you see that there is some sort of mechanism behind the second plate, connecting the second and the third plate that is the furthest down. And as you pull the second plate out, you see that it is essentially what looks like a fire spell of some sort. Now that you see both of these plates together, two different schools of magic, two different purposes within magic, you realize that these are plates that are designed to allow anybody to use them. Where standard spell scroll, you have to be able to do that type of spell in order to activate it. These can be given to anybody. And they can activate the magic.
So you don't have to have magic to be able to do it.
No. I would like you to make a Tinkerer's Tools roll, which should be your intelligence and your proficiency, because you are proficient in
Yes.
Tinker's Tools.
3 plus 5 again. Okay. 18.
Alright, so as you pull out that second plate and you see that mechanism connecting that one and the third one, you kind of examine it and move a couple of other internal mechanisms out of the way. Mechanisms that you kind of figured out what they did as far as cooking. This looks like a mechanism that was inserted into this machine. Into this quote-unquote hot plate. And is separate from its primary purpose. And as you examine it, it looks like a timer of some sort. Something that is either set to go off at a certain time or set to go off with a number of activations. You're not quite sure. But it is a timer of some sort.
Is Neville learning all of this too?
I'll like explain the process of what's going on to him as I'm like pulling out each one.
Yeah.
And you do get out the third plate as well as you're examining this. And I'm just sorry to interrupt, just to make sure that I remember this. You get out the third plate, and it looks like the same type of construction plate. It lacks any of the standard runes that you recognize, though. So you're not quite sure what the magic of this particular plate was, but it seems to be aligning itself with the other two as a kind of 1, 2, 3 activation of some sort in combination with that mechanism we found.
But this third plate wasn't Merkin?
It is Merkin, but you couldn't see any runes on it. Like, you saw like a fire rune on the second one that was like, okay, that's probably the thing that made the explosion itself. And you saw a summoning rune that was not in the Merkin language that you recognized on the first plate. That's like, okay, that's the one that summoned the Mephits. You don't see anything that you fully recognize on that one.
Yeah, I'll just explain like the process and like I'll be like, give me that one, that right there. Yes, and then the pliers. Okay. What I'm doing now is yes.
Okay, so as we start to glean all of this, Nevalier, like, his face and demeanor starts to lighten. He goes, so, Right side of this makes it look less like Micken planted this, but it doesn't necessarily explain the arcane damage, as far as I can tell.
It both adds suspicion to Fred, but it also adds suspicion to Micken again. Because of this right here, and she taps one of the plates. This is the timer. In other words, whoever triggers a timer doesn't have to be there.
Could have been planted there before we were even on the ship. Are you able to tell how long it was set?
She shakes her head. It could have been a number of uses, it could have been a time. Basically, it opens up a possibility that somebody could have set it and ran within seconds or minutes or number of uses. However,
And
one thing should be mentioned. Fred and Cricket were on their deathbeds before Taylor healed them. They would have died.
nods. The only question I have is how Rybeck got hit with arcane energy that was not Mephit related.
Angela nods. And why?
And you scoured the room? There's nothing left up there?
Absolutely nothing left.
And Nevalier just runs his hands through his feathers.
It's like I told Megan. He cast his die, and so has everybody else for that matter.
I don't
All of
think he
the
did it, but I don't
all that
think
remains
anyone
for
else will
us.
really see it.
Exactly. All that remains is for us to see what happens. Because Tarto is coming in a couple hours.
Just writing that note out to make sure everybody understands.
Okay.
Oh, okay, so yeah, summoning spell, fire spell, and the third plate which did something?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. That does change things, because knowing that, Nevalier would kind of tilt his head back and forth and say, maybe it's possible that the third plate did it. You don't have a way to prove it. Wait. Micken hasn't seen this, has he? Like
Correct.
gesturing to the plates. And then he'll look over his shoulder towards Micken and then look back. Why don't we make him look at it? Just shrug. Say, he knows a lot about magic. He recognized Mercane magic. And I'm willing to believe the man is studious to a fault. Whether or not we have suspicion for him is irrelevant if he is at least forthcoming about what these might be or do more explicitly. He is a
At
wizard.
this point, we might just as well wait for Tarto at that point.
I want to disagree because we can get more information before Tartu is here. Tartu is going to make a decision rather than wait for new information. And I think that we are responsible for all the information Tartu gets before he gets here.
I suppose that's true.
I could oversee, we could hand it off to Trixie, Button, and Micken, stand in the wings and let them investigate it. Mickens wouldn't be able to do anything without getting jumped by everybody, and we could see what was going on, but we wouldn't have to risk anything. Oh no!
Did we lose?
Cody's computer froze.
Cody, no!
Uh-oh.
So apparently there's another investigation going on,
Why not
which is
continue?
which is fine. I just want to make sure that y'all have an opportunity to actually like voice it.
If you want to give him the other one, that's fine.
All I need is a third plate. Actually, give me the first plate too. It'll be a litmus test. See if he's lying.
All right.
Okay. The Nevalier is going to take plate 1 and 3, and he will go and flag down Button because he doesn't want to get close to Micken because Micken will have a heart attack.
I was about to say, do you just approach? Because if you do,
No, he will get in visual, like get in eyesight, eye line of Button, and then like nod his head, like come over here for a second.
Okay.
And you can, and he will be holding the two smaller plates that are inside it. How big are those?
So let me describe this a little bit better. You have essentially these fairly large, like 9-10 inch by 9-10 inch square metal plates that were essentially, for lack of a better way of describing it right now, attached by like the inside of a like jukebox record player where there's a little grabby hand that would flip a CD or flip a record. Something like that. That was on a timer to activate these 3 in succession. And so when Angela took them apart in order to get the plates out by themselves, she had to take them out of this timer mechanism, which is still mostly intact, down in like the bottom of this device. So you have 2 full metal like squares covered in runes.
Okay, so and they're like you said, basically like almost like a foot square. They're like 9 by 10.
They're like at least a like good like notebook paper size, a little bit bigger.
Okay. So Nevalier will get like within 30 feet of Button, just kind of flag Button down, and you can see he's holding 2 metal plates.
Okay. Button will leave Toad with Micken. I imagine Button has just like sat down with Micken to calm him down.
Yeah, he has slowly sunk down into like crisscross legs, still kind of curled into himself fetal position. He has stopped crying, but he is still like, the best way I can describe it, because it is essentially what you guys have done. You have broken the neurodivergent, slightly on the spectrum kid.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
And he is just kind of like zoned out, like watching everything, hypersensitized, overwhelmed, but also like starting to disassociate, you can tell.
We're working on it, buddy. Just hold on for like, I don't know, like another half hour.
Yeah. Button was in full comfort and companion mode. So Button just like sees Nevalier at the corner of her eye, and Button cannot squint. However, Nevalier, I imagine Nevalier would feel it in his soul. That if Button could squint, she would. But Button will like just slowly get up, leave Toad in her spot. Oh no, did we?
Cody, no!
No, Cody!
Cody's on the struggle bus today.
Oops again! Button will leave Toad in her place next to Micken, and will make their way over to Nevalier.
So when you get over to Nevalier, he will take a knee to get closer to eye level with you, and he will hold out the plates with one arm and gesture to them with his hand and say, "This is our last shot to make absolute proof Micken is innocent. I want him to be innocent. I want, rather, to prove that he's innocent. Tarto's going to get here and he's going to make a decision. And all we know, hi Cody, and all we know right now is that these 2 plates, one of them is a plate that summons the Mephits, and the other is one that we don't know. Give these to Micken. And he will gesture with one finger as to which one is the summoning one and which one is the unknown. And he will say, ask him to identify them, please. Hopefully he knows something about them. He is clearly very smart. And if he can identify that, then maybe it will explain away the last piece to this frustrating puzzle. The summoning one, and he taps it, is to check if he's trying to lie. I don't think he will, but just to be safe. And you'll hand them to Button.
Button will look at them, and they will hold out their hand and hold them. They're very large. They're like, 9 by 10? So they're very, very large on Button. Button's just going to stack them up. I do not think this would be a good idea.
Why not? Like, this is not like a why? This is like a okay, what's a bad idea about it?
I do not think Micken is in the position to do this right now.
Nevalier, like, conflicted, nods and just goes, I can understand why.
I understand the reason why you and Angela had to question him. However, you cannot deny that the effect you had on him is very, very not healthy, and that he needs time to recover. So no, I will not be showing him these. I'd like to give him some time, let him come back to his senses, and then we can revisit.
Nevalier nods his head and says, I want him to have time to recuperate. I don't know how much time we have before Tarto gets here. And I don't know how long it will take for him to draw some conclusion from these, if anything. Can I give them to you to hold on to for when you think he might be able to assess them? And if it works out and everything lines up accordingly before Tarto gets here, or if Tarto gets here and maybe I'm able to stall him long enough, he might be able to identify them in some way that abdicates him of responsibility very clearly.
Very well.
You know, he proffers them to Button.
Button will take them, stack them, hold on to them, put them under their arm.
He, like, before Nevalier gets up to go away, he will, like, nod very firmly at Button and say, thank you. I'll tell Angela that we need a bit of time, and hopefully we can get that.
Enough time for the focus to come back to his eyes.
Nods. And Nevalier, fucking, just looking through my backpack, do I have any, like, snacks? Granola? Like,
Yeah.
fucking, I don't know. Christ, this dude needs, he's probably low on blood sugar, too.
Yeah, I imagine most everybody has something tucked away. I do know that Trixie definitely has something tucked away because she got fun item last time.
Nevalier.
Oh, sorry. I was gonna leave a banana, but I didn't know how to spell Micken, and I didn't want to embarrass myself.
Don't worry, I spell it 2 different ways. I think technically it's Miken, I believe, but
Yeah.
I also spell it Mikken. But
Trixie would have left a banana at his feet and then left. Give him space. Get him a blanket.
I will insert here. As you went over to the bunks, you see that a couple of them have been damaged, much like a lot of the supplies were. It's just kind of a smoldering mess to one corner of the room now. A couple of the cots have been damaged, and most all of them are just covered in that nice layer of like ash and smoke at this point. All of your stuff that was for all of you that was left down here in the galley bunk area now smells very distinctly of fire. And you kind of go poking around and you see pretty much like what everybody brought that you know that they brought. You don't see anything that stands out as particularly surprising or different. You can tell that Cricklet and Fred have left most of their stuff by their cots, like most of you have at this point. You've been on the ship a couple of days. So the routine has happened, and so you only carry what you need back and forth. You hit Micken's cot, and Micken, much like he said last session, essentially seems to only have a change of clothes and then the book on his hip and the wand in his hand. He doesn't seem to have anything else extra. Cricklet has his bow and arrows and a couple of varying arm guards that seem to be designed for the different sized limbs that he has. Looks like a book that is now singed. Book of like pressed leaves and flowers and things. Fred has some sort of what you're pretty sure is like a treat or a candy or something that plasmoids eat. It is in a jar and it looks like jelly. And you've only seen plasmoids eat it. None of them have told you what it is. You don't see anything that stands out as particularly interesting in your poking around of the bunk area. But you are able to grab a blanket if you would like.
Yeah, if I can grab a blanket for each one of them, that'd be cool, but mostly for Micken.
Yeah, there's enough of them left because essentially there's two beds down. Everybody else's beds are largely intact. Just not going to smell good anytime soon.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, you can grab a blanket for each of them if you would like.
Yeah. And I'll grab a Cricklet's book and Fred's jar. Just I don't know, some kind of comforting thing. Question mark. And give it to them.
You go to Cricklet and give him his book. He seems confused for a moment. And there's a very clear to you, like, kind of like, what the fuck expression on his face. But he does accept it in the blanket. And you see him, after a few moments, kind of lay the blanket over his lap and kind of... He doesn't open the book, but, you know, when it's a, like, old book and it kind of has, like, the soft edges to it, you see one hand starting to just kind of, like, run back and forth over the side of the pages of this book in a thoughtful gesture, it seems. Fred, as you come over with a blanket, he takes it and just kind of sets it on the ground beside him, but as soon as he sees the jar, there's a grabby hand. And his arm stretches just a little bit further to grab it before you fully have even given it to him. And you get this, like, somewhere between a grunt and a thank you as he takes the jar and starts opening it before he, like, completely tuning you out as soon as he starts unscrewing the lid of this jar.
Well, I was going to ask what it is, but it's something for later. And I will slowly move towards Micken, non-intimidating way, like approaching a scared animal, and like set the blanket around him if he'll let me.
He just kind of watches you, and there's a little bit of a more of a hunch to his shoulders when you reach around to lay the blanket on him, but he does not stop you or protest necessarily. And it takes a few seconds, but slowly you see his one hand release from around the wand and grab one of the edges of the blanket and pull it a little bit tighter, and then back to his wand, so now he is holding wand and blanket.
When I put the blanket on him, I take a step back to give him space, and then I'll like I imagine like there literally is this much space between them as she sits down cross-legged and just kind of stares around the room like, this is a situation.
Amy,
What?
are you trying to do something?
Oh, I was going to just to ask. Would it be possible? We wouldn't have to roll anything of just from Button's purpose when they were built. Could Button just know how to help Micken? Would they have to roll, or would they just like instinctively like know how to comfort?
I'd say you'd have some idea for like a very basic, if you wanted like make like you have some idea of like how to comfort in the very basic sense of like, you know, a friend sits down beside you and just kind of sits in silence or knows if you need to like talk or anything like that. If you want to be a little bit more proactive in comforting him, you would have to roll, but that would be up to you.
Okay. I was gonna say, like, how much time do we have before Tartu and Sarathi show up?
Tartu did say that there's a couple of hours
Okay.
before they arrived, and it took Angela about an hour and a half, 2-ish hours in total, to disassemble everything and pull the plates out and examine the device or the timer inside of the hot plate. So it takes, you would imagine there's anywhere between 1 and 3 more hours.
Okay. Well, then Button is going to take a bit more proactive approach. What would I have to roll? Because, on one hand, yes, comfort friend, he needs space and time. However, if what he knows about the plates could help how the situation looks, is like, okay, that is a priority. But first, mental health.
I'd say you could roll just a straight wisdom.
Okay.
You got it.
11.
Okay.
Could I add my my thing? Fuck, where is it?
Guidance.
My own personal guidance.
Sure.
I forgot what it's called. But you know the thing?
Yeah, your auto gnome ability.
Yeah, my auto gnome guidance.
Nominus.
The auto guidance.
Yes, you can.
Okay, that's just a D4, right? Yeah. 2, 13.
13's not bad. You guys are low level. The DCs are a little bit lower.
Thank God.
Yeah, wait until you get 6 or 7, then the DCs start jacking up a little bit more. So you go over. How would you like to try and comfort him?
Well, I was kind of asking if Button can like suss out how to help, because everyone is different. Some people need space. Some people need someone to sit there and be quiet. Some people need a distraction. Some people need to just munch. Like, can Button like gauge
Through the interactions you've had with Micken, He seems, both on the ship and before in the couple of interactions you've had with him at the academy, he never seems to be, he likes talking to people. It's just he only seems to know how to kind of talk about a couple of things, and then he just kind of can't. So you know that being around him and near him is not going to necessarily upset him. You kind of surmise that you need to try and refocus him on something that he likes or something that is distracting to him, to try and pull him out of this kind of dissociation that he is falling into.
Okay. I have a cute idea.
Not allowed.
All right. Button
No,
is
I'm
going
kidding.
to just after. Sorry, I wasn't listening. Did you say something?
That's a good policy, Amy. Just ignore Joe.
Yeah, just keep going. I'm being an asshole. No, you're good. It's appropriate.
Okay. I was looking at my inventory. My ears shut off when that happens. Okay. Sorry.
No, that could not have been better.
Okay. Button, after like talking with Neville, is going to come back. She has tucked the plates away, out of sight. However, she has reached into the bag and pulls out like a couple pieces of paper, and Button also pulls out a pen and some chalk, and Button's gonna like lay it out. She's gonna sit like next to Micken so that the paper is in front of both of them, and Button is going to just like quietly start talking, and as if talking to Micken and also just to themselves, Button's going to start theoretically designing a ship.
Aw. It's a little
I'll just-
project.
Yeah, a little project, a little like theory crafting of, well, if we have a crew of 10 and we have a ship that's approximately like what, 30 yards long, would it be shaped like this? I think this shape would be good. Or we can have it in this shape with this overarching. We can have the storage on the bottom, and just start designing a ship in front of Micken, like using chalk and using ink. Just like chalk to like the temporary ideas before like they settle on an idea, and just go over it in ink, and probably just like open-ended question of like, do you think that works?
As you start talking,
Mhm.
as you start talking, Micken does not seem to really, like, you see his eyes drift towards you in the paper, but is very clearly like unseeing at first. And the first time you ask, though, what do you think? What's your opinion? He doesn't respond, but you continue. And you see him after a few minutes just kind of lean a little bit closer. And his head tilt just slightly. And you kind of glance in his direction. You can see that he's a little bit more tuned in and focused. Slightly more relaxed, but still kind of curled in on himself all the same. And next time you get around to asking his opinion, you just get a very quiet, it depends if you want to land on water or not.
Aw.
Button just nods. I think that's very important. Versatility is a priority.
And there's just a slow unwrapping of one hand. The other one's still holding onto the wand close to his chest. And he just kind of reaches out and traces a line of adjusting the shape in the bottom of the ship for landing. Not trying to grab any writing utensils, but just drawing, so knowing that you would see it. And it takes until probably a good 30-ish minutes before he seems to be a little bit more tuned in. And both Button and Trixie would see him kind of every so often kind of panic glance around the room, checking where everybody is and what's going on before looking back at the paper. But slowly he is leaving fetal position. It is just kind of standard curled into himself.
The normal amount?
Yeah, the normal amount of anxiety, other than the brief moments of, oh yeah, shit, I should be worried, and then getting distracted again.
I see this as an absolute win. Hey. I'm tempted to just, like, after session, just MS Paint. Ship the thing. Okay. Button is Trixie paying attention?
Yeah, like she's not hard focusing, but she's kind of keeping her eyes around the room, seeing what everyone's up to.
You probably see Button is like, once Micken is like the normal anxiety, probably call in Trixie, the chillest member of the group. And
Cool,
just say,
Mom.
yeah, just like, Trixie.
Hmm?
We're making a
Yeah.
ship. Would you like to join? I have an idea that we have a storage, but I think for you it'd be great to have a little fruit section of the storage. What do you think?
She looks at Button for a second, like slightly confused, but then looks at Micken's like, oh yeah, that'd be like really cool.
Gesture to sit down with them.
Like, I found this thing recently. Maybe if we can make this, but bigger.
A bag?
Yeah. It'd be really cool.
A big bag. Okay,
Yeah,
I'll write that
look,
down.
it keeps the fruit fresh. Like, can we make one of those? Would that be possible?
I don't know. Micken, would that be possible?
And he kind of looked nervous for a second as Trixie got closer, and then pull out this bag that he's never seen before. And you start talking about it doing things, and he just kind of like leans a little bit closer. And next thing he's entered into your personal space, looking at this bag, not reaching for it, just looking, and then just like a single finger pointing. There's I think runes around the edge. So theoretically, if you copy, maybe it depends on the space, but maybe.
Trixie pulls the bag like closer to her eyes to look at the runes. Like, wow, I didn't even notice that.
And you do see a line of what you thought was a pretty pattern around, like stitched around the edge of the opening of the bag. When you look a little bit closer, it's like, oh yeah, I can see that there is runes of some sort in amongst the stitching. But you are also not magic user, so you're not super familiar with it.
Wow, that's really cool. I didn't even notice that. By the way, you want some fruit? I got like a slight variety here.
Slight variety. Not an actual variety, mind you.
If you say that, and you do see this like words trying to form on Micken's lips, and this like very slight confusion of what does slight variety mean.
Trixie pulls out a different fruit in each hand.
So 4 types of fruit.
Yes. This is about it. Want one? Holds all 4 up.
He kind of blinks for a second and slowly points to like an apple. Can I have that one?
Of course. Can I show you a trick?
Yes.
Watch this. So she does the, you know, the thing where you put the apple in your palm and you can break it with your hands, like split it in half.
Yeah.
She does that.
Oh, that's fucking cool.
Oh no.
He like blinks for a second, and you see
Ta-da!
him tilt his head slightly.
That's awesome.
How did you do that?
Oh, it's really easy. You just got to get your hands in this position like this, and she takes the half of the apple. You can do it with half the apple too, and you put it like this. You have to have your palms here. You don't have to put the strength in, but it'll just pop like this.
He takes like the other half of the apple that you're not demonstrating on, and you see him very clearly trying to work out the mechanics of this. Not getting very far. But he is also not eating the apple because now he's distracted by mechanics of how do you break an apple.
You've done it. You've preoccupied him. He's gonna hyperfixate on apple mechanics now.
Button is just thinking, I was right to bring in Trixie.
A perfect plan.
Here. Using a full apple is a little easier. You know, the half apple gets a little, slippery and sticky. Here.
He'll take a full apple, and he's still trying and largely failing. Very clearly overthinking it.
Right? Yeah, here.
Button's gonna take the apple. Apple's bigger than Button's hand. Button just looks at it. Oh. Hands it back.
Yeah, having a grip is kind of important. I don't think there are any smaller ones in here. We'll have to get you a crab apple when we port. Again.
Nod. I'm sure with enough practice, Megan will be able to do it.
Yeah.
See him kind of flush slightly. He does not say anything, but he clearly heard that.
Alright, does Micken look like recovered and stable enough to broach the plates?
Enough. He is still clearly a little more skittish, much more akin to the very first time that you met him. And he was like very nervous about things being at the table with all of you.
We just like all descended upon him.
But he is no longer verging on panic attacks or anything.
Yay.
2 thumbs up.
Fucking
4 thumbs
had a
up.
game. Mental high five.
That's what happens when you roll and on intimidating the character that is the most easy to intimidate. He goes into panic
break
attack
him.
mode.
He's fine.
Yeah, because of Trixie and Button.
He's fine.
Oh boy. Alright. Button is going to point to Trixie's bag and say, You recognize the runes. Do you know a lot about runes?
He kind of glances at the bag and then looks back at the apple. I mean, not a lot, but I mean, the math and the formulas for all of it's the same.
Micken, I would like to ask you for a favor. Is that okay?
He just like freezes and his eyes slowly lift in your direction.
Big ass like circle LEDs from under hat. Also, I assume Toad is gone, right?
Yeah, Toad would be gone at this point.
Toad is gone at some point during the map making process. Ship design.
What?
Well, there were items found that caused all of this, and I wanted to ask if you could take a look at them, and with your knowledge on runes, could help us.
His face falls very slightly and he shakes his head. I didn't do anything.
No,
For
button,
posterity.
save it. Button,
for
save it.
Shut the fuck up. Just to get the Angela off Button's bag, Button will insight check.
Okay.
But regardless, I know what she's gonna say. Oh, 26.
He looks very much like he is telling the truth.
Yeah. Button just nods. I know you didn't. However, your knowledge could help identify what happened. Would you be willing to take a look?
He glances around really quick to make sure the two people that scare him the most are not nearby.
Nevalier, I'm gonna actually put him over here.
And where has Angela gone off to?
I have no idea.
Way away.
Nowhere near Micken.
Well, now I'm going to be relatively close to Micken, despite that.
So you're gonna undo all of my work.
I'm going to be right here.
No.
Staring very, very angrily.
No, not even angrily. She doesn't.
Staring
eye
with
on
disappointment.
Yeah.
Oh no.
Seeing what Button is trying to do and seeing Micken look at Angela, Trixie will look at Button and Micken and give a wink, stand up, and walk over to Angela and wrap her arms around her shoulder. Hey, Captain, what's up?
Get off of me.
I actually need to talk to you.
Get off of me.
Over here.
Too bad. Get off of me.
Look, do you want answers or no?
Angela just sighs. All of this is compassion. It's going to get everybody killed. Fine.
Well, as long as it's not you, right?
This is everybody else dies. I die too. But let's be on with it.
Trixie will walk between the group and just talk to Angela.
Who is pointingly ignoring her.
God, that move. Flashbacks.
Megan, seeing Nevalier about as far away as Nevalier is going to be, and Trixie distracting question mark Angela, he looks back to Button. I can try. I mean, Mercan magic is different, but I've read a book or two.
Well, all that I ask is that you try. I know you didn't do this, but you seem very intelligent, so you might be able to help us identify what happened.
He just nods very slowly.
Button is going to pull out the first plate.
Okay.
And place it. Probably like they're, I imagine, semi-detailed, semi-cartoony ship plans, ship design, a little to the left, and just place the plate down.
You see him kind of lean over the plate a little bit, like bent in half over his crossed legs, kind of leaning over it. And I want Button to also make an Arcana check real fast. Simply to see if he or see if they recognize anything in it. Nope.
He does not.
Okay.
Man, this pronoun shit is all over the place. Sorry.
It's
I've
going to
heard
get worse
he,
because
she, they.
Button is all of them.
Yeah, Button is all of them.
Everybody is
Button
referring
is
to
gender.
Tarto as he, but Tarto is she.
Yeah,
Saratha gets referred to as he quite often, but technically Saratha's pronouns are they, he. According to the book. And there's more characters coming up that are going to be all over the place.
Pronouns. Who needs them?
Everything. All of them. Same time. So Button, they, she, he, does not recognize anything aside from them just being generally magic runes. And Micken looks over and you can see Micken's head just kind of side to side, examining it from seemingly different angles. And then let me roll for Micken. You see a finger kind of extend, one of his hands lets go of his wand in the blanket. He kind of traces over a couple of runes. This is definitely Mercan magic. They're the only ones that do this, and he kind of taps on the metal plate to indicate that these plate scrolls are Mercan. It looks like summoning, maybe? That's a summoning, and he kind of points towards one rune. And that's, I don't know, maybe infernal? Not language, but the rune for fiends? In Mercan, it looks kind of like the rune for fiends in common. He's gesturing at different parts of the plate, where you see the first one that he gestures to is a rune that looks in a very different style to a lot of the other runes on the plate when he says summoning. And then the other one looks like a weird mishmash of different types of runes into one single symbol. I mean, going off of what happened, this might have summons the Muffets.
Thank you. I wasn't able to read that. Button is going to take out the third plate and set it down next to the other plate. What do you know? What can you find out about this one?
He turns his attention to the other one. And he's quiet for a long moment, and you can see the hand that he's using to like motion of going between one plate and the other, and he's matching up runes, saying, okay, these are the same, these are the same, these are the same. Seeing what you can gather to be, he's telling which portions of the spell are the same. And then he hits the portion where the summon symbol, summon rune in common is. And it's a different symbol. And he kind of squints and let me roll for him. Ooh, okay. He kind of squints furrows his brow a little bit. I don't. There's not any normal, like, common runes on here. Like, our language on here. Like, there is on this one, and he taps the summoning rune. But it seems to be formatted the same. So the basic premise of what I assume the activation is the same. And he continues on in this comparison back and forth of the runes, and seems to hone in on one or two spots where the runes are different. This, I don't really know what the spell is directly, because there's not any runes I can really read, but this, and he motions to a rune, I want to say it is like force damage, maybe. It looks kind of like runes that you might write for power in a spell, which usually causes, I don't know, concussive damage or more targeted magical damage, which is the in-character explanation for force damage, because force damage is not really a thing that you can just talk about. And he kind of looks over both of them again. They don't look like they have magic in them anymore, so they I guess were both triggered. And if they were both triggered in everything, they were triggered either at the same time or pretty close to one another, given what magic is, like, traces are left.
Huh. Interesting. Have you seen anything like this before?
Oh,
He gives like this one-shouldered shrug. I mean, I've read some books with Mercan, like, writing in it. This is Mercan, and he gestures towards all the runes that are that he's like, I don't know what they say, but I can tell it's this language. And as far as I'm aware, they're the only ones that can make plates like this. This, he taps on a symbol that is all the way down in the bottom left of both plates. That the person that tried to pay me to get information about the academy, that symbol was on his, like, collarbone.
Was
That
it a
sounds like
tattoo?
What'd you say, Amy?
Was it a tattoo?
And he
Or
nods.
Huh.
At least I think so.
Micken, what exactly did they want to know about the academy?
Mm, they wanted, like, information about when ships came in and out and where the officers were most of the time. They wanted, like, they said that they wanted me to send them letters. But I said no.
Why?
Why did I say no? Because I didn't, I wanted to get a job like normal.
You didn't want to take the easy way? Or the seemingly easy way?
Historically, easy way usually means, bad things happen to people.
Button nods. The person who asked you to do this, were they at the academy?
He
Were
shakes his
they
head.
outside? Where were they?
They were, in the town, before I got on the ferry to the academy. They heard me talking to a tavern keeper about going to the academy the next day.
May I ask how much they were offering you?
They they were gonna give me 100 gold up front, and then they said they would send more gold if I gave them good information.
How would you know? Did they tell you where you would send the information? Or did the conversation get shut down before you could reach that?
I told them no.
Nod. Do you remember anything else about that conversation? Or about the person it was with?
Kind of looks away from you, but is very clear this like look of concentration, trying to remember. Brows furrowing just slightly. I mean, he was kind of just really big and tall and just a human. I think he was at a table with some other people before he talked to me. When I told him no, I paid for my drink and went to my room. But I think there were a few other people at the table.
Did you get any good look at them?
There was there was a GIF at the table, I think, and an elf maybe. I couldn't see the others really good. They were in shadows, but I think there was a GIF and an elf and one other.
Well, thank you for sharing.
Just kind of glances around the room again and looks back at Button. I said no so that I wouldn't get in trouble. Am I gonna get in trouble anyway?
Well, I believe that as long as you didn't do anything, you will not get in trouble. And I will do my best to make others understand that you did not do anything wrong.
Just nervously fidgeting with this wand again.
Can I ask about your wand? Why does it seem to be one of your only possessions?
Kara gave it to me when she proposed.
Oh.
Oh, that's very sweet. What is Kara like?
There's just this, like, blink. And then just a tiny, a very shy smile. She's the nicest girl in the village. Her family owned the bakery, and she was the only one that didn't throw things at me when we were kids.
Yikes.
Button just eyes just like not blink but like dim down and like fucking brighten back up just for like a half second. Throw things at you?
He nods slightly. I have always been better with books than people.
Well, if people were throwing things at you, it might have been the people that were bad, not your skills at socializing.
Just kind of like does the maybe kind of like shrug, and then he shakes his head slightly. But me and Kara wanted to see more. Left the village to go to a bigger town. Figured that the two of us could help each other out, and she was just she's the best.
I'm sure she is. Where is she now, if I might ask?
She apprenticed with a blacksmith. She doesn't like being high up in the air. She didn't want to be on a Spelljammer. She's a halfling, so she likes being closer to the ground.
Ah. I see where she is coming from. Button being 3 feet tall.
I was about to say, do you mean literally?
Yeah, she is maybe a little taller than Button, but she is closer to Button size.
Button just nods. Height is very complicated sometimes.
She says similar things. She got very mad when she couldn't get to the bread box a while back. Yeah, she she didn't want to be on a Spelljammer, but she knew that I really kind of wanted to. So she said I could go to the academy, and so I went to the academy, and I'm supposed to come back when I'm done. Maybe with enough money to get the house.
Nod. I'm sure you will. You seem to be very skilled and knowledgeable. And I'm sure that you will see her again soon. And when you do, I recommend having a stick with a hook at the end. It is very helpful for reaching things you cannot reach. Button just like holds up their quarterstaff, because looking at the image, I just imagine it's kind of bent in that like wrench shape, like on their token.
It's the grabber.
Yeah.
He just kind of blinks at the staff and tilts his head slightly. She might like that. She might like that.
Nod. Button is going to like look at the plates and just like pick them up and pick up the third plate. Like look at it again. And he pointed out the rune, right? That like was on the person's collarbone.
Yes. And it is on the bottom left of both of the plates.
Okay. Button is going to take a different piece of paper and just like copy it down real quick. Just take note before they put it back away. Well, thank you very much for your help in identifying with these two.
And he nods slightly.
And for the information about the person who tried to hire you.
Slower nod.
Hopefully all of this will help us all figure out what really happened, and to make sure that it does not happen again.
His intention has drifted back to like a worrying glance between all of the other crew.
Are you okay?
I guess. I didn't do anything, and everybody seems to think I did.
Well, I don't think you did. And I will do everything in my power to make sure that the wrong person is not punished for this.
He just kind of gives you a slightly hopeful look and just nods and kind of goes back to fidgeting with his wand.
What are your thoughts? How possible do you think this ship is? She points to the little like design ship, as in like chalk and ink, and has little notes on it.
I mean, it needs some design tweaks, and maybe some material changes to make the math work, but if you found the right builder, maybe.
I think it would be interesting. I'm going to be right back. Please feel free to add more notes or other ideas you have on this ship. I think, if nothing else, it is a fun way to pass the time.
He nods slowly. He's very clearly not getting up. He has discovered that at this point, nobody's coming to bother him over here. So he has decided this spot, even if it is near the middle of the room, is close enough to a safe spot that he's going to get.
Alright, Button will stand up and leave Micken with the papers and the pen and the chalk. And Button will approach. Well, she has to pass Angela and Trixie, who I imagine Trixie is still talking at Angela.
Yeah.
Yes,
Fucking
Button
ass
just
being the key part of that phrase.
Yep. Button just like, we all need to talk. And just keeps marching to deliver the same message to Tekwe and Nevalier. Gather the gang.
I as just the small aside, for while most of that was going on, I wanted Nevalier to have approached Cricklet and like share a drink with him, just like, hey, I know we're gonna end up talking to Tarto, and I'm sorry that we have to tell him about what happened. I don't want you to have hard feelings about it, but I won't stop you if you do. And he will proffer him the drink and just kind of sit there and try to commiserate, to let him know, like, man, I don't like it either. I'm sorry.
Cricklet will take the drink. Cricklet seems to be fairly confident in his assertion that you will not kill him. And so he's not overly worried about the drink. He just kind of, as you settle beside him or close to beside him, he just kind of, I shouldn't have taken the fucking job anyway.
He shrugs, just, everyone's coming from a different place, so how are you to know? Shrugs back like, I don't blame you. And I will let you speak to Tarto on your own behalf if you want that. I think it's only fair.
Cricklet just kind of seems to weigh the options. Well, if you do it, then you defend me. If I do it, looks like I'm coming clean.
You can do it too.
No.
I don't think being shy with our word use is going to be bad here. But think about that. Just if you want to. No pressure. Fortunate we can't find who, at least not right now.
There's just a slow nod and a kind of uncomfortable glance towards the galley and the covered body of Ryback. And there's just another shake of the head. He doesn't comment, But there's enough in the body language of like, yeah, he's not super thrilled with all of this. But he's also in a somewhat of a survival, how do I mitigate the damage against myself right now mindset.
Yeah. Not a great seat to be in, his. But he, like, Nevalier would just sit and commiserate until Button came over. But like, I imagine we need to talk. He's gonna look at Cricklet and be like, "Not about you. You're good. Just don't freak out."
She would have collected everyone, including Tekwe.
Gather the troops.
Yeah, gather the troops. She has gathered everyone. Probably brought them away from all of them. Probably into like this direction of some sort. Just like, yeah, they're all in view so we can see if any of them try some shit, but like a way that we can all talk freely for the most part.
None of
Fair.
them seem to really make any moves to move. Fred, as soon as like Tekwe is no longer his shadow, seems to like shift over to sit on some crates that are further away. So he's actually sitting on something rather than on the floor. But they all seem to be pretty sudden, like, I am not going to get in trouble in these spots.
No, we outnumber you. We have the action economy on our side. Ow. Yeah, but once Button gathers up everyone, she pulls out the plates and she hands them back to either Nevalier, because that's where she got them from, or Angela, because those, I mean, Tinker thing go to Tinker person, right? So whoever wants to grab it can grab it.
If oh my god, if Angela doesn't go for them right away, then Nevalier will just, okay, I'll take them. Like, it's not a big deal right now. But
Well, I spoke with Micken about the plates. The first one he identified as the one used to summon infernal things. The second plate, the other plate. After a lot of deliberation and comparing the runes, he was able to gather that it was activated at about the same time the other one was. However, that it does a different sort of effect, a damage that is more concussive, and something more forceful.
looks up at Angela, like, does that account for the wound?
It could. But it could also not.
He said that, and like Button just like taps like the side of their head and just reads out in an even more robotic way. It looks kind of like runes that you might write for power in a spell, which usually causes concussive damage or more targeted magical damage.
I'll pass it on to Tarto.
I also took the chance to ask him about the person who tried to hire him for information on the academy.
Good thinking.
Button points to the plates and then pulls out the piece of paper. And they pull out a piece of paper and just point to it. He said that the person who tried to hire him had this symbol tattooed or marked on their collarbone. It's the same symbol that is on the bottom left corner of the plates.
Interesting.
Also, He believes that the person who tried to hire him was a big, tall human, and he believes that they were not alone, and that a Gith and an elf, and someone else he could not see were sitting at a table with them before he was approached.
A Gith, and elf, and a merkin.
Well, we're not sure. The person who
Right.
approached him was human. The third person at the table he did not get a good look at.
Ah. Does this... Well, go ahead.
Oh, I was just clearing my throat. I'm sorry.
Oh, you're good. Nevalier just is thinking, and he doesn't recognize the symbol at all, right? The one that would be like the tattooed one.
Any of you that would like can try to roll a history. See if you do recognize it. The DC is high for this one, though.
I'm gonna gamble.
Fuck it, history? I mean, why the fuck
I
not?
lost.
It's not like Button is ever gonna roll well on a fucking history check. Holy shit! It's not enough though. I know it.
Oh. It's gonna be like one off.
Oh man, where's
Anybody
Taylor's
else
spamming
wanting to
guidance?
roll?
Yeah, Techway or Angela want to roll?
I guess.
Yeah, sure. I'll try.
Holy
Textula
shit!
and
Oh,
Anway.
nice. I
Holy shit!
What's the
Let's
plus?
fucking go!
+3 for 23.
Hey!
Hey.
Hey!
So, Button,
oh my god.
Angela, and Techway, all three of you looking at this symbol, don't necessarily know exactly what it means per se, but you've seen the symbol on a couple of maps and tucked away in a couple of books at the academy, and it seems to be a symbol for somebody or something or some group out of the Rock of Brawl. And Angela, since you pulled and were handling the plates in the other in the simulation chambers, and were close enough to kind of see and hear the officers when you handed them over and started talking about them, you kind of put two and two together and you realize that this is a symbol for Bocath. For now that you're starting to think of it and connect the dots, for essentially his network and things that he has sold or things that he is involved in. Kind of like a brand symbol.
Yeah, it's a signature. Well, all that remains is for Tartar to come and give him what we have.
Right. Button just looks. I imagine like Button is just like holding up the symbol, like above their head, and then they look up and they're like, "Oh, from this angle, I think I recognize it from the books."
Hmm?
Some of the Academy books had the symbol. It's a symbol for something, for somebody.
It's used as a signature.
Whose signature is it?
Don't know.
Some type of group?
Again, Angela, you did hear Vocath mentioned specifically.
Oh. Guy named
See, I was about to
Boca.
insight check your ass. We just heard that you know.
Guy
Sorry,
named
go ahead.
Boca.
Well, wanting dirt on the academy and straight up attacking one of the officers, kind of a bit different, right? Like,
It's
what do you gain? We're not even at the academy right now.
The more information you have, the easier it is to create havoc.
and
Yeah, but why would they try to plan a strike on Ryback?
Because obviously we're not that important. We're just, students.
If I were to hazard a guess, it would be to cripple the chain of command and prevent us from getting that adamantite ore.
But Ryback isn't a linchpin in the chain of command, though he is liked by a lot of people.
He's a linchpin for us, because if we went too far, then Tardo wouldn't be able to give us orders. In other words, once we're far away, he's our command.
But we have the Sending Stone. We always have a connection to Tarto if need be.
They might not have done that.
This is true, but
It's
I
just
mean,
one
that's
possibility.
still kind of shitty intel gathering if they didn't know we could contact the home base.
I
It's
can't
just a
help
theory.
but feel like maybe this didn't go according to what they had in mind. But regardless of any of that, since it's all speculation, I feel a lot more confident in saying that I don't think Micken is responsible for this.
he is not responsible for this.
Nod.
I mean,
However,
look at him. How could he be responsible for this?
I didn't think he was responsible for it, but I
he could have
wanted
fooled
to.
me.
If all of you just want to go by your emotions, then yes. But there are still plenty of chances for him to have done it. I'm not ruling anybody out, and neither should you, just because he put on some tears.
For someone who doesn't want to let emotion interfere, you seem to have a lot of stake in this frustration you have with him. I know he is suspicious, but
My frustration is not with him. My frustration is with all of you bending over backwards to prove somebody who isn't even concrete innocent. All of them are equally suspicious.
What
it
happened
sounds like you're letting emotions cloud your judgment.
and what happened to innocent until proven guilty? It's not the other way around.
If you want to lay potential murderers on, then go right ahead.
If you're going to be captain, you have to be compassionate here. These are not machines. They're not parts of the ship. These
And
are
too much compassion
people,
will get you killed.
and not enough will get you shanghaied.
What is a Shanghai?
Like, strung up.
Mutiny.
Mutiny.
Oh, no, she was like, what does the term Shanghai come from? What is this Shanghai?
It was a famous village.
I don't know.
Used
I
as
heard
like
it.
a moral lesson.
I heard it in like some movie somewhere.
What's a movie?
But he, like, Nevalier will. He does this sort of like kind of. Not a shrug, but like this kind of surrendering gesture and just goes, I submit. He did have a lot of evidence pointing to him, and it was not a good look. But taking in account his emotional fragility, that does stand to reason as decent evidence as to his constitution, his ability to pull off a crime. That is sapient evidence.
Your evidence is that he cried.
He shrugs and just goes, "Do you think someone who's that anxious could legitimately murder someone in a premeditated way with this elaborate technique? Earnestly, now. I want you to earnestly answer.
Have you ever had a single thought that you might be making it up, pretending to cry?
Do you think that he would be that good of an actor?
You could be fooling everybody.
Even you, who doesn't let emotion cloud her judgment?
Even me. If I wanted to act, I suppose I could. If you want to suspect me, you're free to.
I have no reason to suspect you. I was with you when it happened, and that's a fair alibi. But I don't think it's unreasonable to take into account the emotions at play here. Again, these are people.
Until I get hard evidence to the fact that he is innocent, I will continue to doubt everybody.
Unfortunately, there won't be harder evidence than what we have until we have someone fess up to it or should
And I will
evidence
continue
drop out of the
to
sky.
suspect everybody. And it doesn't
Well-
matter because Tarto will be here in a matter of hours, and this will be done.
What's the full evidence that we have? Let's just lay it out on the table, right? Can't hurt to have everyone know everything and look at things with a new set of eyes, right?
You're right. So we have the testimonies of each of the three. We have the evidence of the plates. We know that the plates have these sorts of inscriptions: a summoning inscription, a type of
Fire.
fire type inscription, and then one last one that we struggled to identify, but Micken identifies as a type of force magic, different from the other two, in line with the three types of things we see on Rybek's body. Rybek's body has the burns from the fire, it has the burns from the mephits. There were puddles from where the mephits were likely killed. There was the explosion. All of these line up with the fact that that device went off. Where you were also able to put together, pointing to Angela, that the device was on some sort of prefabricated timer. Either some number of clicks or some number of hours or maybe even days. It's hard to say. But there was something keeping time on it. This makes the planting of the device a lot harder to pinpoint. When it was planted.
I don't know if it helps, but like, do we know who brought in the cookware personally?
Do we?
Most of the supplies that were brought in with all of you on the ship that dropped off, because you remember you're having to move crates on and off the ship and everything when you landed.
You two do, or all of you do remember that they almost died. And by almost died, I do mean we had to heal them or the methods would have killed them all.
It also they could have gotten caught in the blast or something if it were them. And honestly, it could be none of them. It could have been on the hot plate before it even entered the ship. Did
That is
anyone
a
think of
distinct
that?
possibility. No,
Yeah,
it's
that's what I assumed it was.
It-
I don't think anyone here is guilty.
hearing the testimony and actually seeing them all and the way that they speak. I feel a lot more confident in saying that I don't think any of them did it. It was likely some other student or person at the academy who was led to believe that this would benefit them somehow, which is sad to say.
Like, think of it this way, too. I mean, I might be wrong, of course, but if you knew something was going to happen on this ship, why would you go on this mission?
Especially if it was on a timer. That's the other thing.
Exactly.
There's a lot of unknowns. If we wanted to speculate wildly, we could even say maybe they set it off close enough to one of them that it would knock them out and put them in danger, but not kill them, so it throws suspicion off of them. Speculation won't get us anywhere, but I think we have enough facts here to abdicate anyone of direct responsibility. There's not enough to concretely prove that anyone did it. At least not anymore.
Out of character, Joe, did you tell everyone what Kirklet said? Or no?
Technically, no.
Yeah, technically only Angela has been informed.
Yeah. That's why I was trying to say, like, okay, what's all the information?
Oh, yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Then, like, to that end, yeah, the Nevalier would be like... It's also worth noting that Cricklet was unfortunately involved with the prior attack. He was incentivized by some Mercan who wanted information. He was not told what the device was, what it did. He just assumed it would cause some amount of havoc, maybe, but he was paid some amount of money to do so and given very little information.
And out of everyone, not saying he did it, but Cricklet he admitted to working with these guys previously. Why not just be one last job or something like that? Not that I'm accusing him. I'm just saying.
I see your point. I don't think it would be him. Especially knowing where we're at now, how things are playing out now. If he was going to fess up to one crime, why not fess up to both? Especially given that already throwing yourself under the bus, or at least trusting us enough to confide in us that. He shrugs. I don't think that it would behoove him to do so.
Yeah, but weren't you two also the ones that intimidated Micken by saying, "Oh, accessory versus murder"?
I would like to
I was telling
apologize
the
to
truth
Micken.
for that, and I will not apologize. Now, none of you are willing to accuse, none of you are willing to prove everybody innocent, so we wait.
Waiting is all that we can do, considering we don't have nearly enough information to condemn anyone.
Nods.
Honestly, you spoke to Fred too, and he didn't say much, right?
No. He didn't have much to say. Based on his demeanor and some of the things he said, it seems to me that, honestly, Fred didn't want to even be here, let alone... I'm not even entirely sure why he joined the academy, but I also don't think it was Fred, though I can't concretely prove it.
So, in the long run, everyone's suspicious. No one has a solid alibi, so we
No
shouldn't
one
jump to.
except us.
I mean,
Which is... he says that with like an air of like, yeah.
Technically speaking, we have nothing, so we shouldn't jump to conclusions. We should wait till Tardo gets here. Maybe they'll bring cops or something. I don't know. And let them take care of it. We're just students right now. And yeah, Angela, you have more the authority right now, but I really don't think jumping to conclusions is smart.
I haven't once jumped to conclusions.
Yeah, just made a grown man cry.
I weighed off the possibilities based on the most likely. I'm not going to apologize before that. But neither did I say he is beyond the shadow of a doubt guilty. I
You
said
weigh
from
the
the
possibilities
beginning.
without taking any consideration of their actual emotional faculties, which is not all of the information.
And I believe you hold way too much stock in it. But that is neither here nor there. I have said from the beginning that everybody is a suspect. Now, if that's all, let us wait.
Okay. So as the discussion ends and people return to their corners, do we want to try and get through the officers landing and that discussion, or do we want to hold off and do that next time because it is getting a little late?
I would like
Is-
to just resolve it, because
Yeah, how close are we to the end of it? Because I assume it's just this, right?
I feel like we should have ended this like 2 hours ago.
Well, that's what I said. It depends on how long you do the interrogations for. It... If you guys just want to hand wave, I can hand wave, or do you want to actually RP through it? Because I'm sensing
I'm
some
fine with
frustrations.
hand waving it.
If we're like, I'll say if we're like 95% of the way there, I'm down with just like a vague hand wave. That's
I'm
fine
fine
with
with
me.
anything.
Amy,
'Cause we're
30.
so close.
No preference.
Amy, I hear the clicking, but I hear no voice.
Hello?
Hello.
You're cutting in and
He's
out, I
dead.
think.
The void has taken Amy.
Am I back?
There we go.
Now you're back.
Okay, hi. That was weird.
Yeah.
I guess you didn't hear all my fucking button comments.
No, we
Nope.
didn't hear any. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Which was weird because we heard your mouse clicking. We did not hear any voice.
The fuck?
Yeah,
Was it
it's
just like perfectly synced that it cuts out when I want to speak, but it hears my fucking clicking?
legit sounded like that because there was a one point where you're like, and then it cut off, and then we heard clicking after.
The fuck?
Like
I
your
had so
mic
many.
is just being spiteful.
I had so many sassy button comments. God damn it!
No.
I had so many just fucking.
It hurts. It hurts
all
whenever you
against
can't do
Angela and
sassy.
Nevalier, by the way.
Oh.
Oh yeah.
Thoughts of hand waving versus trying to RP.
Either or, I'm good.
Okay, so since I'm hearing either no comments or just hand wave it, it takes another hour or so before the officers arrive. They arrive on a smaller hammerhead ship, one that you've seen kind of around the academy. It seems to be one of the standard kind of officer utility ships, and is the one that took you to the tyrant ship at the first place, called the Flighty Foundling. And on it you see a crew of about 4 or 5 of the graduates from the academy in Tarto and Sertha. They arrive into one of the other cargo bays and land there. Half of the, not half, but like a good chunk of the rear of the ship still sticking out of the tyrant ship. But they land there and make their way to meet all of you. And Sertha and Tarto both seem to be in a pretty gnarly mood at the moment because of the information about Ryback being dead. So much so that they both kind of take a moment, like, you start rushing at them with information, and they're just like, hold on. And they go to Ryback first. And kind of, take a moment with him and then kind of poke around the galley for a second before returning and seeing the very clear divide between Cricklet, Fred, and Micken and everybody else. And they come back to all of you and request the information that you have. And listen through all of it. And Saratha takes the plates and starts to examine them, as in the device that I am assuming you show him as well, Piper. And they confirm most of everything that you have surmised. That's Mercan spell plates, that they are designed to be able to be used by anyone. That there are 3 different types of spells. And Saratha confirms Micken's assumption that the last plate is a force magic of some sort. In examining the device, Saratha kind of goes back and forth with Angela a little bit in the kind of way that Angela has come to expect from Saratha in lessons, of asking, leading, and prompting questions for Angela to eventually find the answer. And work out that the device was set to go off after a certain number of uses of the hot plate. So the hot plate would have to be activated a certain number of times before this device would be triggered. And then it would rapidly ignite the spell plates one after another to almost simultaneously make 3 spells go off. And with that assertion, Saratha seems to surmise that this was planted before the hot plate got on the ship. And Tarto very clearly does not seem to quite understand everything that Saratha and Angela talk about in the magics and in the finer points of this device, but take Saratha at their word. When Cricklet is brought up and his guilt is mentioned in regards to the simulation chamber, Saratha and Tarto are very not pleased because they were both very, very badly injured. And they were spent the better part of the past 2 weeks between then and now in the hospital because of it. But Cricklet does make a point of fessing up to as much as he is able to on his own, with not no prompting, but very little prompting. And so he is very quickly escorted by the graduates to the brig on the Flighty Foundling.
Oh boy.
Fred is not found to have any particular interest or weight in all of the goings on. He just is his normal grouchy, unhappy self. As Micken offers up as much as he is able to, which is essentially everything that you have found out, Tarto and Saratha take it in and both are nodding. And both seem completely unsurprised by his story and by the symbol that he mentions. And it is confirmed for everybody that that is, in fact, the symbol of Vokath, and that though Tarto and Seritha seem to be fairly unwilling to, at least at the moment, go into who Vokath is in particular, they do admit that it is a Mercan with a bone to pick with Mert, and thus perhaps a bone to pick with Spelljammer Academy as he is running it. As everything is settled, Ryback's body is taken to the Flighty Foundling. And fresh supplies are loaded onto the Tyrant ship. Tarto tells all of you that even though the circumstances thus far have been unfortunate, should all of you still want to continue on, they are still taking the Tyrant ship to Hekatha to get the adamantine meteor. Tarto and Seritha will stay and will lead the rest of the mission to try and avert any other issues that may arise. And that all of you, and Fred and Micken, as they, neither one of them have been firmly accused of anything, will also remain. Cricklet will be taken back to the academy on the brig, on the Flighty Foundling. And to try and mitigate civilian casualties, Wizpop will also be returning to the academy. As they cannot guarantee that anything... As they cannot guarantee that there isn't something else that they are unaware of at the moment. So it is all of your opportunities to turn back, if you want, and fly back with the graduates. And those of you that remain will continue on to Hekatha. And I'm assuming everybody decides to remain.
Yes.
Yeah.
Hello.
Yeah.
Not sure at this point.
R.I.P. Wizpop.
Wizpop will come back. Wizpop's just at the academy now.
Okay. Button gives Wizpop a hug.
Stay strong out there, gnome brother.
Yes, I don't know. Solidarity.
He is
We are small, but we are mighty.
very nervous, but seems to understand the logic behind go on the ship we know is safe versus the ship that is was crawling with horrors and then was exploding and then there were demons and then the Flighty Foundling seems a little bit more safe right now.
Oh yeah. Also inform them about the fucking Clockwork Horror problem.
Yeah. They're not super thrilled, but hearing that you guys have done a sweep of the ship, they're like, I guess that's kind of solved.
Better? I would like to submit. Nevalier will suggest that we all name the ship the Unlucky Tyrant.
Oh man, I love that.
There is, for one of the only times you've ever seen her smirk, a smirk on Tarto's face. And she just nods slightly. That's not the worst name you could have given this, I suppose. And that is where we will end it, and we will pick up next time with Approach to Hekatha.
At level 5?
Yes, at level 5.
Wait, I was
No.
joking! Hell yeah!
Oh shit!
Let's fucking go! One of these days I was gonna be right. Today's the day!
You'll play through this into 5 and then get your magic items at the end of the chapter.
Let's fucking go.
I might switch out characters.
Okay. Well, let me end it here, and you and I can talk if you would like, Pedro.
I'm like 70% leaning that way. I just don't know if